In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to specifically target cellulite on the hips and thighs. This is an area that causes a lot of frustration for people because many spend years working out, doing leg exercises, squats, lunges, cardio, and all kinds of routines, yet they still don't see improvement in these problem areas. It can feel extremely discouraging when you're putting in the effort but not getting results. The reason this happens is because most people are trying to fix the wrong problem. The truth is, what most people think is fat on the hips and thighs usually isn't fat at all. That soft, uneven, jiggly texture that shows up in these areas is commonly caused by something else entirely. In reality, it usually comes down to one of two underlying issues, and neither of them is solved by simply doing more exercise. The first major cause has to do with the lymphatic system. The lymphatic system is essentially a secondary circulation system in the body. While the blood circulatory system moves blood, the lymphatic system moves lymph fluid, which plays a major role in immune function, waste removal, and fluid balance. Throughout your body, you have lymph nodes clustered in key areas, including the neck, the chest, the abdomen, the groin, and the thighs. These nodes act as collection and filtering points for lymph fluid. When lymph flow becomes sluggish or blocked, fluid can accumulate in certain tissues. This leads to swelling, tenderness, and inflammation. If you press on lymphatic areas when they are congested, they can feel sore or sensitive. In many women, especially in the hips and thighs, stagnant lymph fluid creates a dimpled, uneven appearance that looks very similar to cottage cheese. This appearance is often mistaken for fat, but it's actually fluid retention combined with connective tissue changes. When lymph drainage is poor, the fluid sits in the tissue instead of being properly moved and filtered. Over time, this trapped fluid gives the skin that rippled, soft look that people associate with cellulite. So in these cases, the problem isn't excess fat tissue. It's a lymphatic congestion issue. I spent a lot of time studying plant growth, agriculture, and how vegetables grow, and during my research, I came across a very interesting book written back in 1932. The author was a farmer, but he was also trained in physiology and chemistry. In this book, he talked extensively about growing corn and the diseases that affected corn crops. One of the major problems he identified had to do with the plant's internal drainage system, which he compared to a lymphatic system, but he explained that when the drainage system inside the corn stalks became blocked, the plants developed disease and failed to thrive. The key factor causing this issue was a lack of potassium in the soil. Without enough potassium, the plant's ability to move fluids properly was compromised. As a result, fluid stagnated and the plant suffered. When I read this, it really stood out to me. I started to wonder if the same principle could apply to the human body. If potassium deficiency can interfere with fluid movement in plants, could it also affect fluid balance and lymph drainage in humans? This led me to study the relationship between potassium and sodium. These two minerals work in opposition to each other. When sodium levels are high, the body tends to retain fluid. When potassium levels are adequate, the body is better able to release excess fluid. Potassium helps regulate fluid movement at the cellular level. Next, I looked into how much potassium the human body actually needs. What I found was surprising. The recommended daily intake of potassium is about 4,700 milligrams per day. That is a very large amount. Then I compared that number to what the average person consumes daily, and the difference was dramatic. Most people are getting far less, often under 1,000 milligrams per day. People often assume they're getting enough potassium because they eat bananas. However, a single banana only contains around 300 milligrams of potassium. To reach 4,700 milligrams, you'd have to eat roughly 12 bananas in a single day. That alone shows how unrealistic it is for most people to meet their potassium needs through typical eating habits. This means that the majority of people are chronically low in potassium. If someone is experiencing swelling, edema, lymphatic congestion, or fluid retention, and they're deficient in potassium, it's no surprise that the problem doesn't resolve. The lymphatic system simply isn't getting the support it needs to move fluid effectively. One of the most effective strategies in this situation is to dramatically increase vegetable intake. Vegetables are one of the richest natural sources of potassium. By increasing potassium intake through vegetables, you can help the body release excess fluid and reduce lymphatic stagnation. Potassium is actually one of the more difficult minerals to obtain in adequate amounts. To meet daily needs, many people would need anywhere from 7 to 9 cups of vegetables per day, and in some cases, even closer to 10 cups, depending on body size and individual needs. One practical way to do this is by using a blender. You can add leafy greens like kale and spinach, which are both high in potassium and other important nutrients. Beet greens are especially powerful. The green tops of beets contain some of the highest potassium levels of any food, yet most people throw them away. Those beet tops are extremely valuable nutritionally. Put these greens into a blender, add water, and blend everything together. It's important to blend rather than juice, because blending keeps the fiber intact. You can add a small amount of berries, such as blueberries or strawberries, to improve the taste without adding too much sugar. Avocados can also be added for additional potassium and healthy fats. Make a large blended drink, fill the container, and drink half earlier in the day. Then drink the remaining half later on. Doing this daily can significantly increase potassium intake. If the cellulite issue is primarily due to lymphatic fluid retention, this approach can make a noticeable difference. The second major cause of cellulite typically shows up later in life, often in the 40s and 50s, especially around the time of menopause. This form of cellulite is not primarily a fluid issue, but rather a hormonal and muscular one that this type is linked to the adrenal glands. The adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys and are responsible for producing stress hormones. They also act as a backup hormone system for the ovaries. When women approach menopause, the ovaries gradually reduce hormone production and eventually stop releasing eggs. As this happens, the adrenal glands are required to take on a greater hormonal workload. If the adrenals are already stressed during this transition, they may struggle to keep up. This can lead to a number of symptoms, including weight gain after menopause, hot flashes, fatigue, and changes in body composition. One of the key changes that can occur is muscle atrophy. Atrophy refers to the breakdown or shrinking of lean muscle tissue. When muscle mass decreases, the tissue becomes softer and less firm. Muscles lose their tone and structure, which makes the area look loose and uneven. This type of cellulite is not caused by lack of exercise or insufficient protein intake. Instead, it is driven by hormonal stress that interferes with the body's ability to maintain muscle tissue. As a result, no matter how much someone exercises, they may find it extremely difficult to tone those areas that are in this situation. The solution is not to keep trying to burn fat in the hips and thighs. The real solution is to support and strengthen the adrenal glands. This includes getting adequate sleep, doing appropriate types of exercise, managing stress, and aligning daily habits to reduce adrenal overload. By improving adrenal function, hormonal balance can improve, and the body is better able to preserve lean muscle mass. Addressing this root cause is far more effective than endlessly targeting the area with exercises that don't address the real issue. Overall, cellulite generally comes from one of two sources. It is either caused by lymphatic fluid retention or by hormone-related muscle atrophy. Identifying which one applies allows you to choose the correct approach instead of wasting time and effort on ineffective strategies. If you apply the steps I've outlined and focus on correcting the underlying cause, you're much more likely to see improvement. Try these methods, observe how your body responds, and adjust accordingly. I hope this explanation helped clarify what's really going on, and I'll see you in the next video.